If you're like me, you probably shot the same camera brand ever since you started photography. If you're like me, this brand is Canon. And if you're like me, you think that Canon is maybe a bit slow when it comes to developing new and exciting cameras for professionals. And I know Canon released the R8, the R10, the R6 Mark II, the R5C, and not so recently the R3. But talking about the pinnacle of Canon's photography cameras, it still is the R5. And I've been shooting the R5 the minute it came out, and I love this camera dearly. It has fantastic build quality, the sensor is amazing, it has more features than I mostly need, but I still want to talk about today is the specs that I want to see in an R5 Mark II or an R1. I don't care what the name is, but that I want to see an improvement ever since this camera came out in the July of 2020. When it comes to the development of Canon cameras, I'm missing two things. Number one is the variety of cameras that I can choose as a professional. And I know there's the R3, the R5, the R5C, and maybe the R6 Mark II. But that's about it. Back in the day when there was the 5D Mark IV, there was the 5DS and 5DSR. Almost the same thing, but a big spec bump in the megapixel count. So I think from 30 megapixel you went up to 50 megapixel. So as a professional, and if I only shot a lot of studio or editorial work, I could choose and go for the higher megapixel count. And 50 megapixel back then was a big spec bump. This is not valid anymore in 2024, and the R5 remains as the pinnacle and the flagship model when it comes to photography for 4 straight years, and that is very slow. Number two is the fast improvement in their release of new cameras. And we all know that Sony is definitely spearheading this category and is sometimes a bit confusing because they're releasing so many different cameras. But at least as a professional, I can choose between the A7 line, the A9 line, and the A1 line. And I know it's called Alpha, but I still call it the A line. But all professional models, but different aspects that I can choose. And when it comes to Sony, they just released the A9 Mark III with a global shutter, which is a never been done before technical aspects. And I would love to see this in so many cameras and also in a Canon camera. And I know it's only 24.6 megapixels, and which would be not enough for me, but still, I know the progression will go into the direction. But if you look at Sony, they're releasing every year continuously improvements, and even if it's only slight improvements of their cameras. So I can choose as a professional every 1.5, 2 years that I maybe want a spec bump, or maybe want to jump from the A7 line to the A9 line, or maybe the A1 line. And with the A1 Mark II on the horizon, Sony really has a real flagship model that is continuously improved and already on the second stage. So back to Canon, and in 2024 we will hopefully see the R5 Mark II and or the R1. So what I want to see in any of those cameras is the following. Number one, a bigger sensor when it comes to megapixels. Between 50 and 60 megapixels would be awesome. I would love to see global shutter, but again, it's probably not possible in that size, or I don't know if Canon has developed the technical aspects of it yet, but just a bigger spec bump in the megapixel would be great. Number two is internal storage, and Leica just recently released their M11 line with internal storage. I know it's only 64 gigabyte, but still I think we're in the time where this is absolutely possible, and I would love to see a 1 or 2 terabyte internal storage in the cameras, and adding to that having an CF Express Type B. And if it's not an internal storage, please make it 2 CF Express Type B cards. And I know the downside that I cannot put it directly in my MacBook, but I still would love to see the same card for both slots, as they are so fast in the readout. Number 4 is a bigger body and a bigger battery coming with that. And I know a bigger body is controversial, but I think the R5 is one of the best cameras to hold. It fits perfectly in my hand. I'm so confident holding it, and if it was a little bit higher or deeper, I wouldn't mind if we can fit in a bigger battery. Please get rid of the ELPs, they're just not strong enough. when it comes to entire days, and it has been there ever since the, I think, 5D Mark II with only a slight improvement. So please give us a bigger battery. Not talking about the R3 again, but please give us a bigger battery. I don't mind the bigger body when it needs that. Number 5 is a fully articulating screen with OLED. And obviously the screen now is already fully articulating, but when I turn it like this, the screen tends to tilt a bit this way. So it's not perfect 90 degrees when I do that. So Canon, please, please, please fix that. Number 6 is more customizable buttons. I love to customize all of those beautiful buttons back here, and I sometimes come to the problem where I cannot customize a specific button with a specific feature that I want. So maybe redesign this, don't name them with those icons, just name them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as it is in the C70. They've done a great job there. Make it possible to also customize these buttons up here. It would just be so great, and I think every function of the camera should be matchable to any button that is on this camera. Next up is a better ISO and IBIS. I know the IBIS is already great in the camera, but I think camera shake, when it comes down to slower shutter speeds, would be able to be improved with the IBIS, and with the great Canon glass, I think there can be an improvement. And with better ISO, I don't need ISO 250,000. I just want the ISO in the lower ranges to develop better results. I'm not looking to Sony here, but I love how the ISO performs already, but I think there can be a big improvement after 4 years. Next up, a super quirky one, a better shutter button. I don't know why this button needs to be so flimsy and plastic. Maybe it needs to be plastic because of heat reasons, I don't know, but please give me a magnesium like the body is, or make it aluminum or whatever it is to make it feel more premium. I think this is the one downside of this camera, that the shutter button is so flimsy, and you use it actually quite a lot. So make a design improvement there. I'm sure you can do it. Next up is shutter speeds of 1/16,000, a small improvement. I know a couple of cameras already can do it, so Canon, you can do it too. Next is presets for JPEGs. I think something like a recipe, like in the Fuji cameras, or even if you could upload a preset from Lightroom, would be great for JPEGs, for immediate content production, seeing how your preset maybe would look like. So that could be a cool improvement. Coming to the video side, I would love to see RAW, LT, and or C-Log 2 in the cameras. I know the R5C can already do that. Please put it in that new version, in that new body, even if it's maybe coming with heat problems, but I think it's possible. Internal NDs is something that I saw in the Fuji X100V, and I think not only for video it would be great, but especially also for photos, when you want to go down in the shutter speed and add some motion blur to your photos. This would be great, as you want to maybe be with a more open aperture. So I think internal NDs is great. And last but not least, no record limit on the videos. The 29 minutes and 59 seconds is a thing hopefully of the past. Please give us the full range. That's about it. I have a couple of more ideas, but I think if Canon can put some of it in a new version of this camera that I love so dearly, I would be more than happy and get it immediately after it is released. Let me know your thoughts on the new bodies. What would you like to see in it? Please comment down below. If you didn't follow me yet, if you didn't subscribe, please do so. And I see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.